is the smart warehouse itself. Third one is within the warehouse, what are the predictive technologies for demand and supply analysis. Fourth one is how do we to provide flexibility, the rerouting technologies. Fifth one is about the last mile. So given these 5 attributes, I would focus on what are the technologies available in each. First, talking about the factory to warehouse. Even though EV adoption is there in the other segment, EV adoption in this segment is going to be a little bit delayed. Potentially, same is the case for autonomous. So potential for in the segment number 1, which is factory to warehouse, it will remain little more time to mature for any technology to come. Most of the action is going to take place in the second area, which is how the warehouses are going to be automated. If you look at some of the big warehouses, what we have, we operate for Flipkart, Amazon, and Myntra, and many others. The amount of vision technology is what has gone in, is something phenomenal, and also the robotics what has gone in. We have many of the startups working with us in Rightbot, Constant, LinkDot, like that. We have a plethora of startups who are working with us on vision and robotic technologies. Going to number 3 on the demand planning and supply planning. This is another big area for big data analytics, because what we find is a continuous shift. The market 10 days before will behave some way. Next 10 days is different, third 10 days is different. So we don't plan now for a month. It is almost like a daily planning. So amount of big data analysis required is something which has gone multifold, which is going almost every month. We see the trends are different, technologies are different. Fourth one is about the rerouting. I will not talk much. It's more about the edge computing type of technologies. The last interesting area is the last mile delivery. This is where what you see multiple technologies of drone coming in, and also a great opportunity for electric vehicle. Over to you.
No, that was fantastic, Anand. In quick 3 minutes, you covered a lot. I was particularly struck with your smart warehouse, what you mentioned. I'm sure we'll get more time to discuss. Earlier, we had overnight deliveries, then we had 30 minutes, and now we have 10 minutes. That's also the fate of this session we have, a quick 25-minute session. So over to JP, if I may call you that. JP is Managing Director of Garrett Advancing Motion India. Your 3 minutes, please.
Thanks, Nina. That's a tough target to cover a lot of things which are happening in the automotive as well as sustainable field. I would like to speak about 3 of them. The first one, the Honorable Minister already mentioned it, the hydrogen economy, how it can be a big alternate for the conventional fuels. If we actually look at it today, it is very expensive. It is around 1,200 rupees per kg, though the energy density is 3 times the petroleum fuel. But in terms of economics, it doesn't work. So a lot of research and collaboration has to happen between the industry and the research institutions. So we have very ambitious targets. I know many of the big companies are already investing in bringing it down to kind of less than kind of, 150 rupees per kg. When that happens, probably India can really become a powerhouse of producing green hydrogen. And if we have to produce green hydrogen, where do we get the energy from? That is the second thing we need to work on. If you look at the solar energy today in India, it's very economical. The current rates, what it is going is around 2.4 rupees per kilowatt hour, I believe, which is much cheaper than less than 50% of what the conventional electricity supply is doing. But we don't use it that much because of the availability and the distribution challenges. So can we have smart solar farms which kind of integrate the countrywide availability and make them smartly distributed based on the demand? And if we are able to do that, then we solve this whole energy dependency problem, that it can help us resolve multiple challenges, including the energy dependency on other regions, as well as can help us resolve the socio-economic concerns, whatever we have related to the energy sufficiency. The third element, probably I will draw it from what Geetika was mentioning, the kind of the data as well as AI's penetration in India. If you look at the automotive industry with the kind of drive what is on the highway growth, the dubious distinction what India has as one of the unsafe roads across the world is really painful to see. So if we have to change that, definitely, the enormous amount of challenges, it is not only the infrastructure, but also the equipments and the people who drive it. So a lot of things have to happen. If we are able to connect these vehicles through the COV platform, which many of the advanced countries are doing, and in India, we have the IT talent available here, and with the 5G coming in, we will have a lot of things at our disposal from an infrastructure point of view to support that. If we are able to put it in a kind of a framework and define those standards and make them easily adapted to the Indian market, I think we have one of the most complex transportation systems in the world. If we are able to fix this and bring the safety element as the first priority, I think we have a lot to teach the rest of the world as well. I think these three trends are something which India is already starting to invest and can make a very big difference, and to put India on the leading position for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, JP. Yeah, fantastic. Your smart solar farms is a great idea. Let's hope we can take it forward. And now we have my good friend Shriram. Shriram is Managing Director of Andres Hauser. More importantly, he is Chairman CII Maharashtra, full of energy. If only I had 10% of his energy levels, I would have been a different person. So 3 minutes to you. He will speak on manufacturing.
Okay. Before I start, I would like to know how many of you are from manufacturing. Just lift your hands. Huh? Okay. Ninath, you see? It's only 5% of the people are from manufacturing. But as you heard, I think Geetika spoke about mobility, he spoke about logistics, and he spoke about energy. Yeah? Without manufacturing, all these three, I think, things what they spoke has no meaning. Huh? Because somebody should manufacture, right? Then only you can transport. And of course, energy is needed for manufacturing. I'm not belittling these sectors. I would like to throw only three things. During COVID, I think many of you, I think 95%, that's why I asked, 95% of you would have had the opportunity to work from home, right? The only people who had to go to the shop floor or factory was manufacturing people. So what I see a trend is now we have Industry 4.0, which means we have sensors talking to each other. We can easily monitor the plant. We can have a lot of transparency. Yeah? Next trend which is coming is Industry 5.0. All of us know we have autonomous car driving. So my thinking is maybe later on, maybe we have equipment which an operator can operate from home. There will be an interaction between the man and machine. So this should be possible. That's first trend. Then maybe we have 80% of the people who will say, I want to come into manufacturing. That's one. Second thing which I feed, which is very, very important, is predictive maintenance. I think today we have equipments where, of course, preventive maintenance is quite good. The trend is, I think we would have equipments where we can find out in advance. For example, I work for a company called Andres Hauser. I'm not marketing that. We have put in our instrument something called as heartbeat technology. Basically, the instrument can find, okay, when it's going to break down, and that's what we have done, started doing it. I feel this will be the second trend which will come in. And third one, which is very, very important in my opinion, is going to be apart from this thing, we all say India, if it has to become the world's leading hub, manufacturing should increase from 18% to 25%. And one of the methodology which I feel manufacturing is take a radical approach is, many a time, imagine we always do business, B2B. We should move from B2B to B2C. Yeah? That means manufacturing should be in a position. Today we have 3D printing technology. We can, of course, print fixtures and other things if we want. We should move from a B2B model to a B2C model. That means we get into niche manufacturing. Yeah? So India should become a powerhouse, should become a niche manufacturing hub. These are the three things which I thought I should convey to you, Ninath. And hopefully, I think I have conveyed what I wanted to say, your expectations.
You always convey more than what you say.
आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव के बीच हो रही ये बहुत बड़ा अवसर है भारतीय उद्योग जगत के नए संकल्पों के लिए, नए लक्ष्यों के लिए। आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान की सफलता का बहुत बड़ा दायित्व भारतीय उद्योगों पर है।
मई 2008 में CII ने इस दृष्टि प्रलेख को बाहर लाते हुए इसे पूरे देश के मुख्य लाभकर्ता के सामने प्रस्तुत किया। इस दस्तावेज ने तत्कालीन मुख्यमंत्री सम्मानित श्री नरेंद्र मोदी और अन्य लोगों से भी प्रशंसा प्राप्त की। CII ने इंडिया एट 75 दृष्टि पत्र को विश्व स्तर पर प्रचार करते हुए इसे अपना संगठनात्मक दर्शन बनाया है। पिछले कई सालों में कई विशिष्ट केंद्र इसके अंतर्गत स्थापित किए गए हैं। CII राज्य व केंद्र सरकार के मुख्य प्रतिभागियों के साथ युवा शक्ति और कौशल के लिए मिलकर कार्य कर रहा है। CII भारत के युवा शक्ति को विश्व स्तर पर काम करने वाले युवा में तब्दील करने के लिए हमेशा से प्रयासार्थ रहता है। इंडिया एट 75 ने आजीविका और डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन पर ध्यान दिया है। इंडिया एट 75 की ओर से फंक्शनल लिटरेसी प्रोग्राम FLIP चलाया जाता है, जिसमें इंडस्ट्री, इंस्टीट्यूशन और व्यक्तिगत स्वयंसेवक भारत में डिजिटल लिटरेसी फैलाने का काम करते हैं। युवा वर्ग भारत का भविष्य है, इसीलिए CII भारत में स्वयं सेवा करने वालों का निर्माण करने के लिए सदस्य संस्थाओं के साथ काम कर रही है। इसके लिए CII ने भारत सरकार के संस्कृति मंत्रालय के साथ 18 जनवरी 2022 को नेशनल यूथ वॉलंटियरिज्म समिट का आयोजन किया था और जनवरी 2022 को नेशनल वॉलंटियरिंग वीक का 9वां एडिशन भी आयोजित किया था। CII भारत के शहरों में सहभागी नागरिक केंद्रित विकास मॉडल अपनाने के लिए प्रोत्साहित कर रहा है, जिसे सिटी कनेक्ट के नाम से जाना जाता है। आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव वर्ष 2020 से CII मल्टी स्टेक होल्डर इंडिया एट 75 समिट्स का आयोजन करते आ रही है, ताकि 2022 के बाद भारत के एक समग्र दृष्टि पत्र पर काम किया जाए। सरकार ने आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव के लिए जो दिशा निर्देश दिए हैं, उसके अनुसार CII ने कई नई पहल की शुरुआत की है और 2022 में भारत के नई सुबह के लिए नए प्रयासों को स्थापित किया गया है। अभी हाल ही में इंडिया एट 75 फाउंडेशन ने फायरसाइड चैट्स की शुरुआत की, जिसका नाम था आई हैव अ ड्रीम, जिसमें अपने क्षेत्र के उत्कृष्ट लोगों ने हिस्सा लिया और अपनी व्यक्तिगत अनुभवों पर संवाद किया और भारत के भविष्य के प्रति अपनी आकांक्षा की चर्चा की। इंडिया एट 75 फाउंडेशन और CII रीजनल, स्टेट और जोनल ऑफिसेज में खास इंडिया एट 75 सेशंस आयोजित किए गए, जिसमें आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव मनाया गया और इंडिया एट 100 के लिए योजना बनाई गई। भारत सरकार के सांस्कृतिक मंत्रालय के साथ कॉन्फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडियन इंडस्ट्री CII और इंडिया एट 75 फाउंडेशन ने नई दिल्ली के सुषमा स्वराज भवन में 23 अप्रैल 2022 को संकल्प से सिद्धि प्रमुख सम्मेलन आयोजित किया, जिसमें नया भारत नया निश्चय के ऊपर चर्चा हुई।
So many millions and billions of things exist in this country which we all need to be proud of, and that is what Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav narrative has to be. We can do business, and we can do business really well once we understand our own contribution.
As we look at India at 75 and getting ready for India at 100, this is the period which will be called the Amrit Kal in history of India.
So this is the right time to resolve when India is at 75, and we have to pledge and commit what we're gonna achieve, what will be our contribution in the next 25 years which is called the Amrit Kal.
CII और इंडिया एट 75 ने इंडिया एट 100 दृष्टि पत्र पर काम शुरू किया है। हम आपको इंडिया एट 75 के इस जन आंदोलन में हिस्सा लेने के लिए आमंत्रित करते हैं, जिसके तहत एक नए देश का निर्माण होगा जो कि नैतिक रूप से सशक्त, आर्थिक रूप से मजबूत और तकनीकी रूप से विकसित हो।
CII initiated a pan-India visioning exercise to find out what the people wanted for themselves and the country. Their aspirations were mapped to the resources available, and recommendations were made on how to bridge the gap between the two. This exercise resulted in a comprehensive national-level vision document called India at 75, the People's Agenda.
इस बार 75वें स्वतंत्रता दिवस के माहौल में आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव के बीच हो रही है। ये बहुत बड़ा अवसर है भारतीय उद्योग जगत के नए संकल्पों के लिए, नए लक्ष्यों के लिए। आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान की सफलता का बहुत बड़ा दायित्व भारतीय उद्योगों पर है।
In May 2008, CII rolled the vision out and took the vision document to key stakeholders across the country. The document received universal appreciation, including from Honorable Shri Narendra Modi, then the Chief Minister of Gujarat. CII has internalized the India at 75 vision as a part of its organizational philosophy. Over the years, it has set up several centers of excellence to work on critical issues. CII has been working with key stakeholders both at the central and state level on issues of skilling and youth empowerment. India at 75 has focused on livelihood and digital transformation. India at 75 runs the Functional Literacy Program, or FLIP, which engages industry, institution and individual volunteers in spreading digital literacy in India. As youth is the key of India's future, CII has been working very closely with member organizations to build the culture of volunteering in India. CII organized National Youth Volunteerism Summit in collaboration with the Ministry of Culture, Government of India on the 18th of January 2022, and the 9th edition of National Volunteering Week was organized in January 2022. CII has been encouraging the adoption of a participative, citizen-centric development model in cities across India called City Connect. Since 2020, CII has held multi-stakeholder India at 75 summits to arrive at a comprehensive vision for India post-2022. In alignment with the guidelines outlined by the government for Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, CII has also launched new initiatives and scaled up existing ones to mark the dawn of a new India in 2022. Recently, India at 75 Foundation initiated a series of fireside chats called I Have a Dream, with people synonymous with excellence in their field for a meaningful conversation on their personal journeys and their wish list for the India of the future. India at 75 Foundation and CII regional, state and zonal offices organized exclusive India at 75 sessions celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and drawing their roadmap for India at 100. Confederation of Indian Industry and India at 75 Foundation, jointly with the Ministry of Culture, Government of India, organized a flagship conference on Sankalp Se Siddhi with the theme New India, New Resolve on 23rd April 2022 at Sushma Swaraj Bhavan, New Delhi, held under the aegis of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav.
So many millions and billions of things exist in this country which we all need to be proud of, and that is what Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav narrative has to be. We can do business, and we can do business really well once we understand our own contribution.
As we look at India at 75 and getting ready for India at 100, this is the period which will be called the Amrit Kal in history of India.
So this is the right time to resolve when India is at 75, and we have to pledge and commit what we're going to achieve, what will be our contribution in the next 25 years, which is called the Amrit Kal.
CII and India at 75 have commenced work on the India at 100 vision document. Come, join India at 75 people's movement to shape a morally, economically and technologically advanced nation.
आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव का प्रारंभ हो रहा है।
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव स्वतंत्रता के 75 वर्षों के साथ हमारे देश के गौरवशाली इतिहास, संस्कृति और उपलब्धियों को जानने की पहल है। देश को आजाद हुए 75वें वर्ष में अमृत महोत्सव शुरू किया गया और पिछले एक साल से देश उत्साह और उमंग के साथ ये उत्सव मना रहा है। ये पूरा कार्यक्रम स्वतंत्रता संघर्ष, आइडिया एट 75, एक्शन एट 75, अचीवमेंट्स एट 75, रिजॉल्व एट 75 के 5 पिलर्स पर आधारित है। आजादी के आंदोलन की दांडी यात्रा ने ब्रिटिश हुकूमत के खिलाफ एक अलख जगाई थी। गुजरात की उसी धरती पर एक बार फिर उस सफर को याद करते हुए आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव को लॉन्च किया गया। इस अमृत महोत्सव के दौरान देश भर में विभिन्न कार्यक्रम आयोजित किए गए, जिनमें से प्रमुख थे क्रांतिकारी मंगल पांडे जी को श्रद्धांजलि, मणिपुर के मोइरांग में आईएनए द्वारा भारतीय ध्वज फहराने का अवसर, महिला क्रांतिकारियों की याद में किताब का विमोचन, भगवान बिरसा मुंडा के जन्म दिवस को जनजातीय गौरव दिवस के रूप में मनाना, खुदीराम बोस की याद में सांस्कृतिक कार्यक्रम, जलियांवाला बाग स्मारक का पुनर्निर्माण, ड्रोन शो द्वारा क्रांतिकारियों को श्रद्धांजलि और नेताजी की 125वीं जयंती पर उनकी होलोग्राम प्रतिमा का अनावरण। इन सब के अलावा 2 करोड़ से अधिक नागरिकों ने राष्ट्रगान गाकर अपनी भावना को प्रकट किया और पूर्वोत्तर के रुझाजो गांव में जनजातीय नृत्य का सांस्कृतिक कार्यक्रम आयोजित किया गया, जिसमें जनजातीय समाज का उत्साह देखते ही बनता था। काशी उत्सव से हमारी सांस्कृतिक विरासत और उसके आध्यात्मिक पक्ष से संपूर्ण विश्व परिचित हुआ। देश के बच्चों ने भी अमृत महोत्सव में अपनी भागीदारी करते हुए प्रधानमंत्री को पोस्ट कार्ड लिखकर उनसे अपने सपने शेयर किए। अंतर्राष्ट्रीय योग दिवस पर 75 स्थानों पर हुए कार्यक्रमों ने भारतीय योग के महत्व से लोगों को परिचित कराया। रिपब्लिक डे परेड पर भारत की भव्य सांस्कृतिक विरासत का जिन कलाकारों ने प्रदर्शन किया, वो वंदे भारतम नृत्य उत्सव के द्वारा चयनित किए गए थे। लद्दाख में 225 फीट का राष्ट्रीय ध्वज, देशभक्ति गीत, लोरी तथा रंगोली प्रतियोगिता का आयोजन किया गया और जन भागीदारी से ये कार्यक्रम सफल हुए। भारतीय उत्सवों के हर्षोल्लास को कई गुना बढ़ाते हुए उमंग उड़ान उत्सव मनाया गया, जिसमें आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव का संदेश देती पतंगों ने आकाश में उड़ान भरी। आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव के तहत गति शक्ति योजना के लॉन्च के साथ ही अर्बन कॉन्क्लेव में 75 परियोजनाओं का शिलान्यास हुआ और 75,000 लोगों को उनके घर की चाबी सौंपी गई।
वाणिज्य सप्ताह, स्मार्ट अर्बनाइजेशन, स्टार्टअप इंडिया और मेघालय की उमंग गोट नदी उत्सव, सुशासन सप्ताह, टेम्पल 360 वेबसाइट जैसे कार्यक्रमों ने अमृत महोत्सव को सफल बनाया है।
नदी उत्सव से लोगों में जीवनदायिनी नदियों के प्रति जागरूकता बढ़ी पिछले 1 साल से मनाए जा रहे इस उत्सव में जो उत्साह और जन भागीदारी का प्रदर्शन हुआ है, वो दर्शाता है कि देश इस उत्सव के महत्व को जानता है। विश्व भर में इस प्रोग्राम के तहत इवेंट आयोजित किए गए हैं। मार्च 2021 से अमृत महोत्सव मनाने का सिलसिला आज भी देश में लगातार जारी है। ये हमारे देश, संस्कृति, परंपरा और विरासत पर गर्व करने का उत्सव है।
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव हमें आजादी की जंग की स्मृतियों को जीने का अवसर देता है। आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव का प्रारंभ हो रहा है।
Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is an initiative to highlight the glorious history, culture and achievements of our country in the last 75 years since independence. Amrit Mahotsav was initiated to commemorate the 75th year of the country's independence, and since March 2021, the country has been celebrating this festival with great enthusiasm and fervor. The entire program is based on the 5 pillars of freedom struggle: ideas at 75, actions at 75, achievements at 75, resolve at 75. The Dandi Yatra was a watershed movement in the freedom struggle of the country that ignited the spirit and energy of the countrymen to act against the British and reclaim freedom. Hence, Gujarat was chosen as the place to establish and commence the grand celebratory movement of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Multiple programs were organized under the aegis of Amrit Mahotsav to celebrate the spirit of independent India, tribute to Mangal Pandey, unfurling of the Indian flag by INA at Moirang, Manipur, book launch on women freedom fighters, Lord Birsa Munda Jayanti as Tribal Pride Day, cultural program in memory of Khudiram Bose, inauguration of renovated complex of Jallianwala Bagh Memorial, drone show on Indian freedom struggle icons, unveiling of Netaji's hologram statue on his 125th birth anniversary. More than 2 crore citizens participated in the Rashtragan campaign. A cultural program showcasing the diversity of Northeast India's tribal dances was conducted in the village of Razazo in Nagaland. With Kashi Utsav, the world got a never-before peep into the rich cultural and literary heritage of Banaras.
A campaign, #Postcards to PM, was initiated where school children from across the country wrote messages to the Prime Minister, sharing their dream and vision for the India of their future. To mark the International Day of Yoga, programs were conducted at 75 places across the country to promote the significance of yoga. Vande Bharatam, a grand spectacle of dance, was organized and its winners got a chance to showcase their talent at the Republic Day Parade 2022. To promote the spirit of Jan Bhagidari, events like installation of 225 feet national flag in Ladakh, Desh Bhakti Geet writing, Rangoli making and Lori writing competitions were initiated for people to come forward and contribute in large numbers. To paint the sky with the colors of Amrit Mahotsav, the festival of Umang Udan Utsav was initiated where more than 3 crores kites were flown. With the launch of Gati Shakti Yojana, under which 75 programs were initiated, 75,000 people received the keys to their dream homes. To reflect upon and celebrate the life-giving and saving aspect of the rivers of our country, Nadi Utsav was conceived. The enthusiasm displayed in global celebrations of Amrit Mahotsav through Jan Bhagidari is a reflection of the commitment people have towards this grand vision. As we move closer to celebrate 75 years of India's independence, we look forward to take the message of Amrit Mahotsav to the farthest corners of the world.
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव हमें आजादी की जंग की स्मृतियों को जीने का अवसर देता है।
देश के हर एक कोने से जनता के अलग अलग दृष्टिकोण को उपलब्ध संसाधनों से नापा गया और फिर इस प्रक्रिया से राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर एक दृष्टि अभिलेख इंडिया एट 75 जनता की कार्य सूची के अनुसार तैयार किया गया।
इस बार 75वें स्वतंत्रता दिवस के माहौल में आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव के बीच हो रही है। ये बहुत बड़ा अवसर है भारतीय उद्योग जगत के नए संकल्पों के लिए, नए लक्ष्यों के लिए। आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान की सफलता का बहुत बड़ा दायित्व भारतीय उद्योगों पर है।
मई 2008 में CII ने इस दृष्टि प्रलेख को बाहर लाते हुए इसे पूरे देश के मुख्य लाभकर्ता के सामने प्रस्तुत किया। इस दस्तावेज ने तत्कालीन मुख्यमंत्री सम्मानित श्री नरेंद्र मोदी और अन्य लोगों से भी प्रशंसा प्राप्त की। CII ने इंडिया एट 75 दृष्टि पत्र को विश्व स्तर पर प्रचार करते हुए इसे अपना संगठनात्मक दर्शन बनाया है। पिछले कई सालों में कई विशिष्ट केंद्र इसके अंतर्गत स्थापित किए गए हैं। CII राज्य व केंद्र सरकार के मुख्य प्रतिभागियों के साथ युवा शक्ति और कौशल के लिए मिलकर कार्य कर रहा है। CII भारत के युवा शक्ति को विश्व स्तर पर काम करने वाले युवा में तब्दील करने के लिए हमेशा से प्रयासार्थ रहता है। इंडिया एट 75 ने आजीविका और डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन पर ध्यान दिया है। इंडिया एट 75 की ओर से फंक्शनल लिटरेसी प्रोग्राम FLIP चलाया जाता है, जिसमें इंडस्ट्री, इंस्टीट्यूशन और व्यक्तिगत स्वयंसेवक भारत में डिजिटल लिटरेसी फैलाने का काम करते हैं। युवा वर्ग भारत का भविष्य है, इसीलिए CII भारत में स्वयं सेवा करने वालों का निर्माण करने के लिए सदस्य संस्थाओं के साथ काम कर रही है। इसके लिए CII ने भारत सरकार के संस्कृति मंत्रालय के साथ 18 जनवरी 2022 को नेशनल यूथ वॉलंटियरिज्म समिट का आयोजन किया था और जनवरी 2022 को नेशनल वॉलंटियरिंग वीक का 9वां एडिशन भी आयोजित किया था। CII भारत के शहरों में सहभागी नागरिक केंद्रित विकास मॉडल अपनाने के लिए प्रोत्साहित कर रहा है, जिसे सिटी कनेक्ट के नाम से जाना जाता है। आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव वर्ष 2020 से CII मल्टी स्टेक होल्डर इंडिया एट 75 समिट्स का आयोजन करते आ रही है, ताकि 2022 के बाद भारत के एक समग्र दृष्टिपत्र पर काम किया जाए। सरकार ने आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव के लिए जो दिशा निर्देश दिए हैं, उसके अनुसार CII ने कई नई पहल की शुरुआत की है और 2022 में भारत के नई सुबह के लिए नए प्रयासों को स्थापित किया गया है। अभी हाल ही में इंडिया एट 75 फाउंडेशन ने फायरसाइड चैट्स की शुरुआत की, जिसका नाम था आई हैव अ ड्रीम, जिसमें अपने क्षेत्र के उत्कृष्ट लोगों ने हिस्सा लिया और अपनी व्यक्तिगत अनुभवों पर संवाद किया और भारत के भविष्य के प्रति अपनी आकांक्षा की चर्चा की। इंडिया एट 75 फाउंडेशन और CII रीजनल, स्टेट और जोनल ऑफिसेज में खास इंडिया एट 75 सेशंस आयोजित किए गए, जिसमें आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव मनाया गया और इंडिया एट 100 के लिए योजना बनाई गई। भारत सरकार के सांस्कृतिक मंत्रालय के साथ कॉन्फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडियन इंडस्ट्री CII और इंडिया एट 75 फाउंडेशन ने नई दिल्ली के सुषमा स्वराज भवन में 23 अप्रैल 2022 को संकल्प से सिद्धि प्रमुख सम्मेलन आयोजित किया, जिसमें नया भारत नया निश्चय के ऊपर चर्चा हुई।
So many millions and billions of things exist in this country which we all need to be proud of, and that is what Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav narrative has to be. We can do business, and we can do business really well once we understand our own contribution.
As we look at India at 75 and getting ready for India at 100, this is the period which will be called the Amrit Kal in history of India.
So this is the right time to resolve when India is at 75, and we have to pledge and commit what we're going to achieve, what will be our contribution in the next 25 years, which is called the Amrit Kal.
CII और इंडिया एट 75 ने इंडिया एट 100 दृष्टिपत्र पर काम शुरू किया है। हम आपको इंडिया एट 75 के इस जन आंदोलन में हिस्सा लेने के लिए आमंत्रित करते हैं, जिसके तहत एक नए देश का निर्माण होगा, जो कि नैतिक रूप से सशक्त, आर्थिक रूप से मजबूत और तकनीकी रूप से विकसित हो।
CII initiated a pan-India visioning exercise to find out what the people wanted for themselves and the country. Their aspirations were mapped to the resources available, and recommendations were made on how to bridge the gap between the two. This exercise resulted in a comprehensive national-level vision document called India at 75, the People's Agenda.
इस बार 75वें स्वतंत्रता दिवस के माहौल में आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव के बीच हो रही है। ये बहुत बड़ा अवसर है भारतीय उद्योग जगत के नए संकल्पों के लिए, नए लक्ष्यों के लिए। आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान की सफलता का बहुत बड़ा दायित्व भारतीय उद्योगों पर है।
In May 2008, CII rolled the vision out and took the vision document to key stakeholders across the country. The document received universal appreciation, including from Honorable Shri Narendra Modi, then the Chief Minister of Gujarat. CII has internalized the India at 75 vision as a part of its organizational philosophy. Over the years, it has set up several centers of excellence to work on critical issues. CII has been working with key stakeholders both at the central and state level on issues of skilling and youth empowerment. India at 75 has focused on livelihood and digital transformation. India at 75 runs the Functional Literacy Program, or FLIP, which engages industry, institution and individual volunteers in spreading digital literacy in India. As youth is the key of India's future, CII has been working very closely with member organizations to build the culture of volunteering in India. CII organized National Youth Volunteerism Summit in collaboration with the Ministry of Culture, Government of India on the 18th of January 2022, and the 9th edition of National Volunteering Week was organized in January 2022. CII has been encouraging the adoption of a participative, citizen-centric development model in cities across India called City Connect. Since 2020, CII has held multi-stakeholder India at 75 summits to arrive at a comprehensive vision for India post-2022. In alignment with the guidelines outlined by the government for Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, CII has also launched new initiatives and scaled up existing ones to mark the dawn of a new India in 2022. Recently, India at 75 Foundation initiated a series of fireside chats called I Have a Dream, with people synonymous with excellence in their field for a meaningful conversation on their personal journeys and their wish list for the India of the future. India at 75 Foundation and CII regional, state and zonal offices organized exclusive India at 75 sessions celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and drawing their roadmap for India at 100. Confederation of Indian Industry and India at 75 Foundation jointly with the Ministry of Culture, Government of India organized a flagship conference on Sankalp Se Siddhi with the theme New India, New Resolve on 23rd April 2022 at Sushma Swaraj Bhavan, New Delhi, held under the aegis of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav.
So many, millions and billions of things exist in this country which we all need to be proud of, and that is what Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav narrative has to be. We can do business, and we can do business really well once we understand our own contribution.
As we look at India at 75 and getting ready for India at 100, this is the period which will be called the Amrit Kal in history of India.
So this is the right time to resolve when India is at 75, and we have to pledge and commit what we're going to achieve, what will be our contribution in the next 25 years, which is called the Amrit Kal.
CII and India at 75 have commenced work on the India at 100 vision document. Come, join India at 75 people's movement to shape a morally, economically and technologically advanced nation.
आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव का प्रारंभ हो रहा है।
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव स्वतंत्रता के 75 वर्षों के साथ हमारे देश के गौरवशाली इतिहास, संस्कृति और उपलब्धियों को जानने की पहल है। देश को आजाद हुए 75वें वर्ष में अमृत महोत्सव शुरू किया गया और पिछले एक साल से देश उत्साह और उमंग के साथ ये उत्सव मना रहा है। ये पूरा कार्यक्रम स्वतंत्रता संघर्ष, आइडिया एट 75, एक्शन एट 75, अचीवमेंट्स एट 75, रिजॉल्व एट 75 के 5 पिलर्स पर आधारित है। आजादी के आंदोलन की दांडी यात्रा ने ब्रिटिश हुकूमत के खिलाफ एक अलख जगाई थी। गुजरात की उसी धरती पर एक बार फिर उस सफर को याद करते हुए आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव को लॉन्च किया गया। इस अमृत महोत्सव के दौरान देश भर में विभिन्न कार्यक्रम आयोजित किए गए, जिनमें से प्रमुख थे क्रांतिकारी मंगल पांडे जी को श्रद्धांजलि, मणिपुर के मोइरांग में आईएनए द्वारा भारतीय ध्वज फहराने का अवसर, महिला क्रांतिकारियों की याद में किताब का विमोचन, भगवान बिरसा मुंडा के जन्म दिवस को जनजातीय गौरव दिवस के रूप में मनाना, खुदीराम बोस की याद में सांस्कृतिक कार्यक्रम, जलियांवाला बाग स्मारक का पुनर्निर्माण, ड्रोन शो द्वारा क्रांतिकारियों को श्रद्धांजलि और नेताजी की 125वीं जयंती पर उनकी होलोग्राम प्रतिमा का अनावरण। इन सब के अलावा 2 करोड़ से अधिक नागरिकों ने राष्ट्रगान गाकर अपनी भावना को प्रकट किया और पूर्वोत्तर के रुझाजो गांव में जनजातीय नृत्य का सांस्कृतिक कार्यक्रम आयोजित किया गया, जिसमें जनजातीय समाज का उत्साह देखते ही बनता था। काशी उत्सव से हमारी सांस्कृतिक विरासत और उसके आध्यात्मिक पक्ष से संपूर्ण विश्व परिचित हुआ। देश के बच्चों ने भी अमृत महोत्सव में अपनी भागीदारी करते हुए प्रधानमंत्री को पोस्ट कार्ड लिखकर उनसे अपने सपने शेयर किए। अंतर्राष्ट्रीय योग दिवस पर 75 स्थानों पर हुए कार्यक्रमों ने भारतीय योग के महत्व से लोगों को परिचित कराया। रिपब्लिक डे परेड पर भारत की भव्य सांस्कृतिक विरासत का जिन कलाकारों ने प्रदर्शन किया, वो वंदे भारतम नृत्य उत्सव के द्वारा चयनित किए गए थे। लद्दाख में 225 फीट का राष्ट्रीय ध्वज, देशभक्ति गीत, लोरी तथा रंगोली प्रतियोगिता का आयोजन।
Check. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 3:15 now. We had decided on 3:20. In fact, it is 3:17. So I think we broke at 2:40. And it has been a good 40-minute break. I believe we can begin the next session in the next 2 or 3 minutes. So all those seated behind, can I request you to occupy the seats in the front? And all those yet having lunch are requested to please finish your lunch as quickly as possible and join us for the last session of the day. All those seated in the back rows requested to come, please come in the front and occupy the seats. Thank you. This session is again a conversation with the industry leaders, Dr. K. Nandakumar, Mr. S. Paramashivan, Mr. Kaushik Pal, Mr. Hakimuddin Ali, and Mr. Joy John. This session will be moderated by Mr. Rishabh Goel. So the moderator and the panelists are here. Request everybody standing behind to please settle down quickly and do ensure that your cell phones are on the silent and you know the reason why. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is a session on infrastructure to enhance connectivity for India at 100. India, ladies and gentlemen, has the second largest road network and the fourth largest rail network in the world. And these are just some of the indicators which show how infrastructure provides the backbone for India. With India poised to become a world leader in its own right, it is critical for us to invest in setting a world-class infrastructure, both physical and digital. In addition to building urban, railway, roads, and energy infrastructure, we need to lead the world in setting up new age infrastructure like broadband, data centers, R&D facilities for emerging technologies and the like. This session will focus on the way forward for enhanced connectivity in India. So I will once again welcome the panelists, beginning with Dr. K. Nandakumar, Chairman and Managing Director, Chemtrol's Industries Private Limited. Welcome, sir. Mr. S. Paramashivan, Managing Director, Afcons Infrastructure Limited. Welcome to you. Mr. Kaushik Pal, CEO, Asia Roads Infrastructure Private Limited. Welcome, Mr. Pal. Mr. Hakimuddin Ali, Executive Director, Dalmia Cement Bharat Limited. Welcome. Mr. Joy John, Director, Air and Sea Freight, Jet Freight Logistics Limited. Welcome to you. And I will hand over the charge of this session to Mr. Rishabh Goel, Managing Director and Partner, BCG India. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started. I guess it's post-lunch, but hopefully we can invigorate some of you with the thoughts on this very important topic of connectivity and how infrastructure will enable that for India at 2047. As I was thinking about connectivity infrastructure, I felt it's like the nervous system of the body. Without those connections, you really can't have a prosperous economy. And more importantly, a distributed development of the country, which is also a very important enabler for inclusivity. So as we spend time on this topic today, I think it's very critical to say that this will shape both the economic prosperity, but also the inclusivity of the country in the next 25 years. If we look at, the last 10, 15 years, we have, of course, made great strides. I think whether we look at roads, and the rate of construction, we, of course, had Mr. Gadkari today. We look at the entire port-led development with the Sagarmala model. We look at dedicated freight corridor. We look at the bullet train project. There are many things which are happening, which are, of course, all going towards the connectivity infrastructure. But I guess we all know that we still are a far way from the world-class standards that we aspire to be. If you look at logistics cost, we are about 1.5x of the rest of the world. In public transportation, our utilization levels are very low. There was another interesting thing which I picked up, that in the US, the top 500 companies are distributed across more than 25 states and 50 cities. But in India, you'll see that that concentration being very high. So again, we have not really been able to distribute our economic development to many more cities, also partly driven by the connectivity we have. And so there's a lot to be done. And as we spend time today with this distinguished panel, we'll be talking about a few things. So we'll spend some time on really thinking about the future of both our physical and digital infrastructure, whether it's roads, ports, airports, data centers. We'll spend a bit of time also understanding, what's the role of technology, because without innovation, without technology, we are unlikely to actually achieve those ambitious programs that we are looking at. I think sustainability is another key angle in infrastructure. How do we build for sustainability? And I think we'll definitely love to hear the panelists' thoughts. And of course, maybe trying to wrap up with, the role of the government as well as the private sector going forward. So that's how we'd like to run this. Maybe what I'll do is I'll start off by requesting each panelist to maybe set their aspiration or perspective on this topic by taking 2 or 3 minutes to say, what is your personal aspiration for India at 2047 as you think about this area? So maybe we'll go with Kaushik ji first, you, and then go on to all the others.
Hello. Hello. So, good afternoon to everybody. The discussion topic, as we have listened from Rishabh, is more to sort of dovetail into the low productivity issues which can be overcome through technology and innovation. So we will try to be brief on that subject. Having said so, it is very important for us to understand that India is in a demographic situation which we heard all our leaders speak, that we are the fastest growing country in the world. So we are in a demographic situation where we will have to now make progress in leaps and bounds and not in small. And therefore, it is necessary for this connectivity also to have that faith of leap. And I think Sankalp and the 75 years and 100 years is a misnomer, because we are going to achieve 3 times in the 25 years what in 1/3 of the, that 3 times 75 years seems to be compared to the 25 years. So on technology and innovation, the world is moving very fast. It is necessary for us to bridge the gap faster, safer, and in a way that it is sustainable. That is, we do not actually increase the greenhouse gases, which is, the climate and the environmental concerns are now paramount for the future generations. And therefore, in the serious investing world that I represent, the ESG parameters and sustainability norms are a very important part of the SDGs. And with those initial comments, I would like to pass it on to my next panelist. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Kaushik, for your insight. Being from the logistics side of the service and a service provider, for me is how can I as a logistic provider service and get the dwell time down for the end user, the consumer, and for the manufacturer. So when you talk about aspirations of what, personal aspirations of what we would like to be at 2047, yes, I would like to say that everybody here agrees that we are a growing economy. So when we are a growing economy, we should have the world-class infrastructure. And when it comes to infrastructure, I say that we should have ports, which are equally very, very modern as on date, but it can be enhanced with the surroundings and the infrastructure built to support the ports and the airports. We are building a new modern airport at Navi Mumbai, and I hope the government takes, because our association has also made a representation, thinks about cargo villages, and where not only the dwell time is reduced, but at the same time we have service, we can service the customers to the level where there is less disruptions or handling of their freight. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ali.
Very good afternoon. Thanks, Rishabh. I think after what has been spoken in the morning, especially by Mr. Gadkari and all, they have already painted a big picture, and we understand where we are moving towards. I have a bit slightly more fundamental views on, how we want to develop ourselves in the next 25 years. So it has to be more, I think, more out of the box than what we are today. What we are doing today, probably we should have done 30, 40 years back. Building roads, building infrastructure, we've been crying about it since last 15, 20 years, but fortunately it is happening now, and it's happening at a very rapid pace. What I believe is that we have to start completely rethinking the way the traffic is going to move. And my hypothesis here is that in 15 years' time, 20 years' time, probably there will be very bare minimum population which will move physically on the current roads. Because the technologies which are in pipeline now, whether it is to do with the hyperloops or to do with the maglev trains or modern high-speed networks that we are talking about, probably only goods would be moving on the current roads. And I think there is a need for us to completely revision or envision, how we are going to create that infra which is going to carry roads. Just yesterday I was watching one small clip where trucks are being driven by artificial intelligence and not by the real drivers. And it's a real possibility, provided we are able to take care of the safety and other topics. The other point is on the sustainability part, and I would love to elaborate on that, Rishabh, in my next round of talk. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think it's an interesting question. When you are trying to imagine 25 years in the future, you can actually start realizing that things we do today may not be even relevant. So absolutely, it's a fair point.
Thank you. I have also a different take on what is the current status or current situation. I take up on the manufacturing side. I believe today the manufacturing contributes is around 16 to 17% of the GDP only. For a country like India, which is developing, and which has a population of, right now, the population is around 1.35 billion people. The sustainability factor comes not from 17%. For a developing country, the manufacturing share in GDP. Right now, I would say it should be around 30%. If not 30, at least 25% is a must. So by 2047, in 25 years, if I look back, my wish for India, the manufacturing should be at least 30% of the then GDP. And I know it's a big challenge because the then GDP, 30% or 30% of, it is an year-on-year growth, if I calculate, is coming around 14%. And it's a big challenge for that. And certainly my wish for that is at least it should be 30% for, because I believe the population at that time will be 1.4 billion. And when I say why the 15% year-on-year challenge, there is an accompanying tag on that, because you can't be in the manufacturing unless you are competitive. And if you need to be competitive, you need to have research and development also simultaneously. When average countries of the world spends around 3.5% of the GDP on R&D, our spending today is only 0.8%. So that's where we have to look at. One subject which is coming on the discussion point is technology. So we need to look at how do we get to that 3.5% of the GDP to invest into, to get into 30% of the then GDP. I am sure that quite a lot of initiatives is taking place in R&D, very, very well in all the fronts. But yet, grassroots R&D in the manufacturing is an entirely different ball game. In other words, I would like to compare a country to Germany. And my vision is India should be Germany of the East as far as the manufacturing is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's on 15th August 2021, our Honorable Prime Minister announced Amrit Kal from 22 to 47, conveying 40 trillion economy is what was talked about, which translates into 11% GDP growth year on year, which is possible only by significant infrastructure development, economies of scale, cost reduction, and also a process of proper dispute resolution. Today, in some of the areas we talked about, the ministers have come in the morning, they talked about the second largest road, fourth largest this, fifth largest metro, all those kind of things. But the key thing today movement is logistics, where we are 44th in the world. So in the logistics in the 44th, as against a typical 8% of GDP spent on logistics by many countries, we spend about 14% on logistics. So with a good vision, the government has started the linking of rivers, but it has taken a back seat. Now it has again resurfaced. So the movement of material should happen as a part of infrastructure development, maybe through railways, maybe through waterways, not necessarily through regular road infrastructure. And apart from that, the contractors of the caliber, international caliber and fast delivery needs to develop, for which apart from the government awarding contracts or giving this thing, or moving towards QCBS as they call. And they need to have a proper dispute resolution mechanism in place. While Arbitration Act has been amended, it's not implemented in true spirits. Every arbitration award is challenged in the court of law. So no wonder the government, this is one area where there is no significant movement. Of 190 countries, from 186 we have moved to 163. It's not a significant movement. Therefore, these are the areas which we believe need to be addressed on top priority. While roads have been consistently getting improved, the railways are taking a back seat, and not, except electrical transmission, other areas are not getting addressed to the extent it is desired to be extended. Inland waterways is not getting extended to the extent it needs to be addressed to. And also the connectivity, the way in which NCR, they have done NCRTC to connect the metro with the Meerut and other places. Similarly, probably many cities may have to take those aspects. If these things are done, we believe we can move forward, and 40 trillion economy, it may not remain as a real dream, it can really happen. These are my initial thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Paramasivan. I think very important point there on the modal mix, because while we of course need roads and better quality roads, I think railways and inland waterways play a very important part in actually ensuring that our logistics ecosystem develops and the cost comes down. So I think they're a very important point. Maybe I'll start actually back with you. I think on the topic of urban infrastructure, I think we all are quite aware of how congested our cities have become, and even getting across from one part of the city to the other is a challenge in itself. And I think this entire debottlenecking and decongestion is an important part of at least enhancing the infrastructure for connectivity within the cities. Just wanted to get your thoughts. You have been, of course, involved in building many marquee metros, many rail projects. So what's your vision for Indian cities going forward?
Public transport system should significantly improve. There have been definitive improvement as compared to the past periods, but it needs to significantly improve. And also the nearby towns, villages, cities need to be connected so that it becomes an extended city practically, like the way Delhi is attempting. Like they are connecting many parts of Noida and Gurgaon and beyond that to UP and also in Haryana, and similarly in Rajasthan also attempts are being made now to connect. So those kind of connectivities, because this vision plan also envisages nearly 40% will become urbanized in 2047. That calls for huge connectivity. And the connectivity, the pace needs to be accelerated. And apart from digital economy, which could help to address part of this activity, but physical infrastructure needs to significantly go up in terms of urban connectivity, the way it is being addressed in the capital city, in other cities as well.
Great. So I think a cluster of cities in a way, rather than trying to burden our existing cities more, really think of developing the clusters around and connecting them well and doing more greenfield. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I meant.
Great, perfect. So maybe I'll move to you, Mr. Pal. I think on roads specifically, we have of course heard of the success story in the last 7-8 years. There's been a lot which has happened. We have of course seen a lot of financing models as well. In your view, what's the agenda for the next 25 years? As you see the role of technology, also the entire question of connecting urban and rural, how do you see the agenda for the road sector?
So I think 25 years is a very long period. So let's look at the immediate, national infrastructure pipeline, which is the focus of this government, which we look forward to 2025 and maybe a little beyond 2027 because of the COVID years lost. And we are looking at a outlay of initially it was planned about maybe 40 lakh crores, and now we are looking at an outlay of at least 20 lakh crores in the highways. We heard the minister speaking about 3 lakh crores, and we are also in the pipeline for another 3 lakh crores, which is doubling of it. But as I said, we are in a cusp of a demographic shift where India has an average age population which is almost 10-15 years lower than China, and almost 1/3 of the rest of the world, developed world. So we have to make these changes in a leap and faith. So as it is, I believe that 20 lakh crore target which has been set in the national infrastructure pipeline for roads is something which is not a pipe dream. It is absolute necessity, and that too we have to also improve the quality and the maintenance of those roads, which requires a lot of resources. And therefore the question of artificial intelligence comes in, which we are working very intently as of today. So I can tell you that artificial intelligence in the institutes and the other areas which support this road infrastructure, a lot of work is being carried out by the Indian people, scientists, or you can call them. And I believe that we need to get in the private funds. So therefore, the one thing that is missing in India, and we must realize that we have to be more responsible, more sustainable in our seeking funds. And that sustainability topic which will come up will open a floodgate of funds, because a lot of funds are waiting abroad. I mean, this is the place where things are going to happen, and therefore the funds will flow in. And I am representing a European and a Canadian pension fund on top of it. So I can tell you with certainty that with the proper sustainability goals, we should be able to attract funds in much bigger magnitude. And that is the need of the hour, I believe.
Great. Maybe just a follow-up question. I think there's a discussion always on the quantum of infrastructure you build, the kilometers of highways. Also, if you have any thoughts on the performance of that infrastructure.
So the quantum, I tell you, US is at, say, about maybe 94 lakh kilometers. We are at, say, 58 lakh kilometers or 54 lakh kilometers. So compared to USA, our highway density is way, way higher. But the real challenge of this country is that we are the youngest population. That is, we are the consuming population, and we are the smallest country. When you put the global perspective of 3, 4, 5 top countries, our land mass is less than 1/7 of any comparable country. And in the BRICS also, we are one of the smallest in land mass. So our real challenge is that we don't have land. We don't have resources naturally, because if my land is 1/7, my resources have to be much lower. And therefore the challenge is that we have to go leaps and bounds on digital. So we need to go on innovation, we need to go on digital, and thereby this transformation will come in terms of our funding, and in terms of our currency going up, and in terms of our, so we will not move from X to Y in terms of trillions by only working hard. We will be moving when our currency moves up. So, the last 75 years, you would have seen India was 1 rupee to a dollar in 1947. How many here knows? I don't know. Today, India is at 80 rupees a dollar. So I can foresee a day 25 years hence, provided we work intelligently, not hard-working, provided we work in cooperation with the minds in the globe, that we will be at, again, back to 1 rupee a dollar, or maybe $80 a rupee. I mean, that should be the ambition for the country in terms of connectivity also, and it is possible.
No, absolutely. So I think very soon we'll have to start changing the narrative from kilometers built to actually other metrics, which will define the quality of our infrastructure that we are building, because that is already there.
Very true.
Yeah. Great. Actually, on the point of the dollar and the rupee, I think it brings us to trade and our position there. And there I'll actually ask Joy to come in. I think ports and airports, of course, play a very important role in terms of how we think about India's position as a trading powerhouse in the world. And of course, I think this is a place where we are a long way off from where we need to be. And there are very few mega ports in the country. There are smaller countries who have done much better. Of course, we now have the Sagarmala initiative. There's a lot happening. There are many more airports being built. But what's your view on the outlook for how we need to think about this sector?
One of the major reasons why we lag behind is India, in spite of having a world-class port, JNPT is supposed to be a world-class port, but the dwell time for the turnaround of vessels is 2 days, whereas you have modern ports like Singapore turning around, Hong Kong turning around within 24 hours. Second most important port is in India, in none of the ports except the Valapattam port at Cochin is a hub for transshipment. And this is one of the reasons. We have small ports like Colombo, which is a major transshipment hub. The moment we start promoting India as a transshipment hub, we will see a lot of infrastructure, a lot of business coming into India. Even among all our metro ports, only Delhi airport is a transshipment hub. So these are the infrastructure barriers. And plus, if the government starts looking into this area, and the trade, I'm sure, will welcome it. Because if India becomes a transshipment hub, I think it will be a blessing in disguise for many of the industries which are right now at times facing the genuine problem of dwell time. And COVID has really, I can say, for all the manufacturer exporters, especially the trade, has seen a tough time because of the service disruptions, taking the freight rates to rooftop high. It's an all-time high, whether you talk ocean freight or the air freight rates. We've been lucky in the last, you can say, quarter. You've seen a bit of the rates cooling down on the lower side and downtrending, which is a welcome sign for the... You've seen people venturing out into airlines. You've seen shipping lines are started buying aircrafts. You've seen Amazon buying aircrafts. You've seen CMA, CGM buying aircrafts. You've seen Maersk, one of the biggest shipping lines, buying aircrafts. It is for what? So I think, once we promote India, and cargo villages are a must, especially in our metro cities, where when the new airport is built, there should be facilities for the cargo villages, where there is a designated area where the cargo can come, wait, and directly to the aircraft.
And maybe just a follow-up there, what do you think is holding us back? I think we have been, of course, talking about this, maybe not very long back, but recently, but what other 2-3 big things that need to enable this shift for us to become a trans?
We need to have the infrastructure, we need to have digitization. Without digitization, this will not be possible, because once you're going to be a transshipment hub, you need to have the visibility. And that is one of the major hindrances. If once we have you talk about visibility, you talk about the connectivity, and you talk about not only the Indian exporters, but you have the global lines who have got the visibilities of when their cargo will be de-stuffed and stuffed and can be loaded. I don't see it should be so there has to be push from the trade, from the logistics industry, no doubt, taking lead in this. Plus, there should be support from the government.
Wonderful. Great. Maybe I'll come to Mr. Ali, and I think you have been, of course, involved in building a lot of road infrastructure, bridges, as Dalmia. Again, maybe I'll tie 2 themes together, right? What's your outlook for the infrastructure sector, and also from a sustainability perspective? You've been involved in a lot of leading initiatives. How do you see, as companies and countries try to decarbonize their value chains, what's the imperative for us as a country? How do we need to think about it?
Thank you, Rishabh. So, yeah, that's a topic that is very close to our heart. And just to reiterate that Dalmia Cements has already committed, and one of the few companies globally who have committed to be carbon neutral by 2040, much earlier than many of our competitors. And today we have the lowest carbon footprint. It's around 600 kg per ton of clinker. So it's something which is where we are consciously working on technologies that can actually bring down the overall fossil fuel consumption. And if I try to link what we are trying to do here versus the road networks that is happening today, I think one of the major areas where probably the government intervention is required is to change the quality of cement which is required for roads. Today it is OPC which is being used, whereas we strongly believe that it's PPC or the slag cement, which is actually much more stronger on the long run, first of all. But most importantly, it's also green cement, because it consumes at least 30 to 40% of the waste, which today we don't have any other wherewithal to handle. So today power plants are producing lakhs and lakhs tons of fly ash, which we don't have space to keep. And there are now Supreme Court orders as well, to the power plant companies to dispose them off. Where do they dispose it? So either it goes as a base for the roads that we are constructing, or it goes into the cement which finally builds the road. So I think it can be one major enabler. It also conserves the real cement grade limestone which is required for this. I think this is one major input in terms of building, and I can clearly see the ambitious plan that we today heard of also, and government has laid out with almost 300,000 or 3 lakh crores of investment in this area. On the roads and infra, there is no doubt that that's going to be major puller for the industry itself. But I will come back to my first point, that the time has come now that we should really start rethinking the way we think, which is basically what will move, what will not move on the roads, and what do we need to do which is going to sustain us for 25 years, 30 years from now. Because standard ways of doing things have been already done 30, 40 years back. And today I personally believe that there is a fundamental rethink required in terms of transmission of goods from one place to the other. And that's where I think overall need to really look at India as 6 or 7 or 8 zones where they should be self-sufficient zones of production and distribution. So unless we start thinking in a very different way, we will still continue to keep ferrying things from one place to the other, which is going to be a huge carbon footprint. And I think the time has come that we start building. And that's why I'm saying that what we are building today, we are very fortunate because we are trying to create the most modern infrastructure at a global level. So if we are doing it, then we should try and incorporate many things which are going to come in future, which is to do with, to be able to take things through electric vehicles, because it's now the technology of the day. It's not far away. In 2-3 years time, we will have all heavy vehicles getting converted to electrics. So we need to build that infrastructure. We may probably have to have the appropriate charging structures across the roads, and look at very modern and different ways of transit, which is already happening. As I said in my previous thing also, hyperloops which are now happening. And all these things are no more the fancy ideas. These are all artificially driven or intelligence driven cars, and heavy vehicles are going to happen. So we have an opportunity. I'm only saying that we have an opportunity today to create all these things and actually then become the most leveraged country in the world globally, because we are building it today. So that's the point that I want to bring in, and I think sustainability will automatically come with the type of new work that we'll start doing.
Absolutely, and I think that builds a very strong case for the entire initiative of integrated planning, thinking of distributed manufacturing, industrial corridors. I think all of this thinking has to really pick up steam so we can achieve what you are talking about in terms of distributed manufacturing, and then of course the multimodal linkages. Great. Maybe I'll take Mr. Parmasivan one more question, and then I'll come to Mr. Nandkumar, because Mr. Parmasivan has to catch a flight and we are running a bit behind schedule. So from you, one last question would be around, as we think of the entire infrastructure development, planning, financing, that's typically been seen as the government agenda, right? So over the next 25 years, how do you see this evolving from both the government side as well as the private sector's role in terms of, achieving many of the things that the panel is talking about today?
I would feel infrastructure development would continue to be the work of the government, from the way it gets operated, and when we do see the developed parts of the world as well. It will continue to be a focus area for the government, and with some isolated packets of operation from private sector. Otherwise, substantial infrastructure development would be in the hands of the government, and they can have different models as to how to do it. But it will be driven predominantly by the government. That's what I believe. And it has proved elsewhere in the world also that many of those infrastructure development in private sector domain, in PPP model or other thing, which is more in the value of economic value than in terms of commercial value in many times, that has not proved to be economically beneficial to many companies. Therefore, even in places where they have moved to private sector participation, they have moved substantially to government. So therefore, government investments would be the key driver.
Any contrary views on the panel, I think, in terms of the role of the private sector? Because there's an interesting theme here. I can almost imagine saying, rather than trying to build PPP into the development process, actually let the government build and then monetize it, right? And that becoming a way for the funding to happen, rather than trying to get private sector into it. But maybe, Mr. Pal, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, so my take is a little different. Of course, I agree with him completely on the present. But my view is, when we look to the future, I mean, the government is nothing but is a facilitator. So once the things happen, you know, it's not that the government will stop import of iPhones, you know, stuff like that. So therefore, government will stop EVs, or government will stop autonomous vehicles, or finally when the mass comes, which is the mobility, you know, as on move. So basically, it's a service. So you will have a fixed number of cards available for anybody who is at that place, controlled by artificial intelligence. That is going to be the future. And of course, final words that, you know, I am working on Hyperloop, and I believe our international group that is working on Hyperloop, that India will be the largest user of Hyperloop, which is the 5th generation connectivity. That is my belief, because India has the right demography, right requirement, which today nobody has. You know, the contra example is London, which has no flyovers. So because it doesn't have anybody to use it, right? So it still has those, you know, the circles, you know, the olden day circles which you see all over India wherever you go, you know. So I mean, that's the truth of the future.
No, great. I think there's a clear role for private sector to drive innovation, to lead the way, and then of course we have to work in an integrated manner. I think the planning aspect, of course, is where the government plays an important role as a facilitator, and then of course the right financing methods. Great. Mr. Paramasivan, I think you...
Apologies. I have to catch a flight, so I'm leaving now. Thank you very much. Apologies. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll probably take another 5 minutes, but I don't want to delay you, so thank you so much. Yeah, we'll wrap up maybe in the next 5 minutes or so, but coming to Dr. Nandakumar, Doctor, you know, I think this entire question of, you know, we've been talking a lot about physical infrastructure, but the digital infrastructure is also equally important, right? And we need to create accessibility to internet to, you know, the masses of the country, almost like, you know, we have water and electricity, even though we are not there yet even on those, but I'm saying tomorrow it should be as seamless, as affordable, as accessible as a basic right. So what are your views as you think about the evolution and the requirements on the investments in data centers and other areas like that?
Thank you, Rishabh. Let me first go back to what government has done on the digitization first. I must say that government has done over the last 3 years a marvelously good job on the digitization of these information. First, we look at the PM Gati Shakti. Today, it is still half only operational, but I must say that a person sitting in Vancouver will be able to access what is happening in the country in a particular project, particular zone, particular land available, whichever area is there. So this PM Gati Shakti is so powerful. I would say it's right now it is designed on a 900 layers. And 28 states plus 8 union territories, out of which already around 16 states on board. The remaining will come by end of the December. That's what DPIIT secretary says. Once that PM Gati Shakti is fully operational, right now, I must say that by sitting any part of the world or any part of the world, you can understand where the project, where the land available, what type of industry, what type of skills are available, what type of topography is available. So I must say that process of the first phase of the digitization is taken care of by giving this PM Gati Shakti, this GIS portal. So that is a great initiative by the government over the last 3 years has brought up. And by end of December, I must say that's the very, very unique facility available for any investor, not only for startup, but also it will come for existing industries. Along with PM Gati Shakti, around 6 months or 8 months back, government also has brought the National Single Window Scheme. Within that National Single Window Scheme, you can also look at what type of industry is available. What can be done for your industry? So I must say that National Single Window Scheme, which is fully, again, out of the 28 states and 8 union territories, I believe 50% are on board, balance is all getting on board. So if these two, both PM Gati Shakti plan as well as National Single Window Scheme is available, I must say that India will be uniquely digitized for the whole world to have information. There is also a request for private sector to come in, which I believe government is looking at certain amount of the confidentiality or other information natures is required. Once it is there, they may give, maybe partly for private sector. So that these two are very, very great initiative for the global community to look at India for the investment. Going from that, this is not sufficient. When you go into digitization, how do you look at it? Each sector has its own digitization. Even I say in manufacturing, the previous session on the manufacturing also said manufacturing needs digitization, especially specific area which is coming in artificial intelligence or machine learning. And the sector which I come from, process plants, which is continuous process plants. You know, when earlier process plants were making, the time frame for completing a refinery was nearly 7 years. Today you need to complete a 30 million ton refinery in 2.5 years, 30 from 6 years. How is it possible? It's only for digitization. Today, before going into a procurement stage, we need to have what is known as a digital twins created on the computer to go into form. So that digital twins gives you much more better leverage where the equipments come, how fast can be done. Now, when it comes to information sharing, in fact, Mumbai city is the most, I would say, most demanding place for data centers because most of the cable connectivity comes here. And this is where the data centers. And I must say that Maharashtra government also has a special program for data center which is coming up. Quite a lot of initiatives. Earlier, data centers used to take quite a lot of space. Today, data centers are going vertical. And related to data centers, government also is looking at available broadband to cater to maximum extent. So I must say that digitization, government has done quite a lot on this, both on the communication side as well as on the requirements. There are other areas where digitization certainly take place for the manufacturing industry. Industry 4.0. I would say Industry 4.0, especially CI, and we have been promoting this over the last 7-8 years. I must say first 5 years, it's only around 7% or 8% of the industry is going. Over the last 3 years, just after the COVID, that has shot up to around 13%. The Industry 4.0, which is very, very essential for digitization. Again, in the manufacturing industry, every product manufactured is not real manufacturing. It is engineered to the order and manufactured to the engineering. This is the one which is having long gestation period. In any project, any order will take around 2 to 3 years for completion. And any product needs, because it's a highly, I would say, highly demanding applications. High pressures, high temperatures, high corrosions, special metallurgies. So everything goes for a high amount of testing. Till now, till the COVID period, it was a physical testing and inspection. In fact, factory acceptance tests used to take place around 10 days. Just after the COVID, it was all remote inspection. The digitization has given everything was remotely done. No compromise, but you can do at your office, the inspectors need to go, no need to go. So digitization, I would say by circumstances or by force, it has come into play on this. There are a couple of other areas which is coming, robotic process automation or the process robotics. In the coming days, probably will say that it may affect the job creation. Though it will create, it may affect job creation, but there are other jobs created on the digitalization front. So that will certainly neutralize the job loss just because of the robotic automation, but losing the manual jobs. So I must say that digitization is future going to be. And digitization is the only way you can have the sustainability. Because if you need to achieve that sustainability, which is nothing but, in my opinion, sustainability is a factor of 3P. people, planet, and profit. Without digitization, you can't have a competitiveness. Your price competitiveness you cannot achieve. You can't be in the global market. So you need to have digitization you need to have compliances. How do we run an industry henceforth? Because the three E, ESG, environment, societal, and governance. Without that, you can't really, because that is one which the ranking in ESG determines your funding. So if that ranking in ESG, you need to have a digitization. Then only you can have sustainability. If you don't have sustainability, you can't. Sustainability, of course, I said this, profitability. Profitability is a must for sustain. Then only you can. So these three factors, ESG and 3 Ps, only totally account for sustainable development in future. Thank you.
Great. No, thank you so much, Dr. Anandkumar. I guess in the interest of time, maybe I'll just see, this is a big topic. We can go on forever. I'm sure, also an area of passion for all of us. But are there any questions from the audience? We have probably 1 or 2 with the panelists' permission. We can open up if anyone has any questions they'd like to pose. Please.
Thank you, sir. Does the panel hold a view about the role of global sovereign wealth funds and pension funds in the role of India's infrastructure development at all? Thanks.
I think we'll quickly defer to Mr. Pal.
So I think you must be aware that recently the Prime Minister office along with the Finance Ministry has set up a separate wing. They are constantly in touch with the global funds. And on highway sector, I can tell you there are 2 developments where massive funds have been already obtained in the TOT sector as well as the INVITs. There is a National Highway Authority of India INVIT. Of course, as I said, that our requirements are now going up in leaps and bounds. I mean, it's not a percentage. So if you look at today and if you look at tomorrow, it will not be in percentages, and therefore we now need to think really big. And in that scale of funds requires a lot of commitment to the SDGs and the sustainability goals. So I think India need to focus on that and come out of this burning coal and burning this petroleum fuel. So this is one area. If India is able to make a U-turn of burning coal and burning petroleum fuel, I mean, there is no dearth of fund globally, and the leap of faith will take place.
If I can just check if there's anyone else, otherwise maybe you can also catch up with Mr. Pal off the panel. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Myself, Mahesh. I am sustainability consciousness coach. So just now, sir said profitability leads to sustainability. I will add more to it. Not only profit, we have to take care of planet also. So UN has given 5 P's beyond these 3 P. That is planet and the peace. So beyond profit, we have to achieve, we have to justify these 2 goals also. Now, for India, whole world is looking toward us as a Vishwaguru, where we can be a Vishwaguru, where can we be a guru in the industry sector, in Industry 4, how we can be Industry 4. So I feel that there is 5P plus 1C. 1C is a supreme consciousness, that is implied law of nature. We cannot change law of nature. Whatever we have damaged, whatever we are facing today, it is implied on us. We have to work in this condition, it is mandatory. And who has the leadership, who is conscious to do this and implementing the futuristic 25 years things will be we are leading to the net zero beyond 2070, what we are looking for, net zero company. Whatever we are earning as a profit, we should return that to the profit to the someone else. That is the law of sustainability. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that comment. I think it's about what we all have to do as individuals and as corporates to drive sustainability. Great. Maybe with that, I'll move towards the conclusion. What I thought is, in line with the theme of the event, I'd like to maybe request each panelist to talk about their personal sankalp for India at 2047. and what would they see as their commitment, either individually or as part of their organizations? Maybe Mr. Pal, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think my personal sankalp will be that India should be investors' delight in next quarter century, and instead of going anywhere, the investors should be flocking to India. I mean, that is the like they say, you should be flocking to India.
From my side, I would like to see India as an educated country. Our education system is grown leaps and bounds, but I would like to see the government ensuring that right to education is given to everybody, not up to the 10th standard, but up to till they want to study. And once we have educated and a knowledgeable youth in our country, I think it will be every investor's delight to come and invest in India. Thank you.
So I think we have already taken that sankalp, and our task is to actually reach that sankalp of making the cement industry, which is globally one of the largest contributor to greenhouse gases, to make it carbon neutral and zero by 2040. And that's the goal that we're working on, and I'm sure we'll achieve it very fast.
Wonderful. Great.
1,000 years ago, India contributed 33% of the global GDP. My sankalp is, in the coming 25 years, if not 33%, India at least should contribute 20% of the GDP, which is equal to the then population of percentage in terms of the global population. Thank you.
Great. No, thank you very much for all your I would say insightful comments, perspectives, and really enjoyed the conversation, as I hope all of you did as well. Thank you, and I think all the best to all of us in driving this program and agenda forward. Thank you. Thank you.
An enriching day, and I will thank the panelists, beginning with Dr. Nandkumar. Mr. Paramashivan has left, Mr. Pal is here, Mr. Hakimuddin Ali, Mr. Joy John, and of course Mr. Rishabh Goel for moderating this session. So on that note, we conclude this conference. Thank you all for your wonderful participation. This is Manasi taking a leave. Stay safe, stay well, stay healthy. Thank you.